This video contains spoilers for episode 8, season 2 of Fionna and Cake. You have been warned. In this episode, we have got yet another character's backstory, and this time, it's the Heart of the Forest. The Heart of the Forest backstory begins with 3 bandits that were always lurking in the forest, and they were not very good at being bandits, so they seeked power. And who led them to this power? None other than the Dream Warrior, because in events that we'll see very soon, it kind of makes you question whether or not the Dream Warrior is a good guy or a bad guy. Also, one thing to note about the Heart of the Forest that we see depicted in this new animation style. In the middle of his body, it looks like he has some sort of cut fused together, which looks very similar to Huntress Wizard's cut from her hand and then fused back together. Anyways, these 3 bandits decide to worship the Heart of the Forest, and they are granted powers by the Heart of the Forest. However, as soon as the Heart of the Forest leaves, they lose their powers. This is actually pretty similar to how the Ice Crown works. As we saw in the episode King's Ransom, the farther away the Ice Crown is from the Ice King, the more he reverts back to his normal self. Then they begin to start milking the Heart of the Forest for their powers, so he decides to leave. And if you notice how he leaves, it's actually the same way the Dream Warrior left. So does that mean that the Dream Warrior and the Heart of the Forest are somehow connected? Well, assuming that he led them to the Heart of the Forest, that very well could be. Then we see the events that led up to how we see the Heart of the Forest in episode 2, when he emerges from the ground and is chained up. Well, it turns out these 3 bandits / green wizards now were scared to lose their powers again, so they entrapped the Heart of the Forest and chained it. But then we get to the title of this episode, and that is the insect that sang. Now, this title actually does make a lot of sense from what we are about to see towards the end of this episode, that being an insect that was in season 1 who finally makes a reappearance in his normal form. I'm sure you can already guess based on that description, but we'll get there eventually. Now, the very first outfit that we see Fionna in this new episode has a butterfly on her shirt. And if you didn't know, butterflies are pretty important in the Adventure Time series. The most notable one being that it was one of Finn's past lives. But more recently, in Fionna and Cake season 2, we have seen a butterfly with a very similar pattern to what Gold Betty's eyes look like. Now, inside of Hannah Abadir's home, one of the portraits that we see of a young Marceline, he is holding Schwabble, which is actually Marceline's pet dog. Anyways, the reason that they are in Hannah Abadir's home is because Hannah Abadir has pulled out of the fundraiser because Marceline no longer wants to perform there. So now they have to find a new venue for the fundraiser, and that's when DJ Flame calls. But he's actually trapped by the Lemon Guards. However, the thing that he is trapped in is actually a callback / reference to how Flame Princess was captured by her own father. And then one of the craziest things of this entire episode happens. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Huntress Wizard and Fionna get absorbed in this blue bubble and disappear. Back in episode 6, Huntress Wizard killed the Cosmic Owl, which, if you didn't know, if you kill any cosmic entity, that is considered a cosmic crime. And we saw that with a Lich when he killed Prismo, and he got sent to the Citadel. Now, I was kind of surprised that nothing happened in the previous episode to them, and they actually don't end up going to the Citadel, but it's definitely because of the cosmic crime that they have committed, as we will see. But before we find out exactly where they ended up, we're back in Ooo finally, and it's with Simon, Princess Bubblegum, and Marceline. They are traveling through the Heart of the Forest, or the forest that the Heart of the Forest is located in, and they are doing it in the exact same fashion that Finn and Simon first did back in season 1, which is also a reference / callback to the Hall of Egress. We also know this to be the case because as Simon is feeling around, it's the exact same type of thing that we saw when Finn was starting to feel around. We also get a little cool callback that Princess Bubblegum is still speaking German. But now we find out where Fionna and Huntress Wizard ended up, and Orbo is back. And sure enough, they are in the Hall of Judgment for committing a cosmic crime. It's also confirmed that the Cosmic Owl died. Although it was pretty obvious, it was still left sort of ambiguous, but it's confirmed. And some of the characters that we see in the Hall of Judgment, we've actually seen before. Starting with the one that you probably all know, Party God, followed by some of the cosmic entities that we saw in the Cosmic Waiting Room back in season 1. And then we see 2 other cosmic entities that were actually imprisoned in the Citadel. The first one being this cone robot creature, and it was seen during a flashback using its laser abilities to cut a literal planet into pieces in the episode Wake Up. And of course, it was seen as one of the prisoners in Escape from the Citadel. And then we also see this mouth-belly creature, again, appeared in the flashback in the episode Wake Up, and of course, was also a prisoner in Escape from the Citadel. And then finally, some of the cosmic entities that we previously saw when Orbo first made his appearance back in season 1. Now, the person who is testifying against Fionna and Huntress Wizard is none other than the Scarab, back in his original form. Another very interesting thing to point out is when he gets summoned to the Judgment Room, we can see an eye below him. Now, this is interesting because from the very first poster of Fionna and Cake season 2, there were a bunch of these same looking eyes in the background, and we've never really seen what it meant. And I guess technically we still don't know exactly what it means, but it is very cool to see that it's making an appearance. Now, the Scarab being here and testifying against Fionna and Huntress Wizard is the reference to the title of this episode. Of course, the Scarab is an insect, and the sang part is him tattling. Now, as the Scarab is testifying, we get a little flashback to Prismo's time room as he's flipping through the channels. Of course, these channels are different universes, meaning we've got some new canonized universes to talk about. The first one being, it seems like there's an entire universe where they only podcast about Prismo's amazing pickles. The second one is actually pretty cool, and it's actually a reference to Rumblejaw. Now, I'll be honest, I had no idea what this meant, so shout out to @CaveHag on Twitter, but a Rumblejaw was the code name for distant lands before it was announced. A very niche, cool little callback, but that technically means that Rumblejaw is canonized. Now, the third universe is also pretty cool. It seems that this universe, every inhabitant is a car, as we see Finn and Jake as cars, but a very cool little detail is that Finn's car is missing a tire. That, of course, being a reference to him always missing an arm in every single universe. And finally, we see two snakes with one shooting at the other. I have no idea what this one means, so if you do, please let me know. Then we finally get to the scarab witnessing the disposing of the Cosmic Owl's body, and of course, Fionna denies this. Then she tells Orbo to call Prismo to back him up, but she also calls him his fake dad, which is, of course, a reference to how Prismo literally created their universe. But while this is going down, Huntress Wizard is trying to get out of this imprisonment square thing. And how she does it is with the ring that is on Fiona's hand. Now, this confirms that the events from the past episode where Fionna and Fennel visited Venus did in fact happen, because the ring that she takes off of Fiona's hand is the exact same ring that she received after she got proposed to by one of the Venusians. Now, at this point in time, it's pretty much confirmed that Jake has probably died. And as we know, Prismo and Jake were pretty close buddies, but as we also know, Prismo and the Cosmic Owl were also pretty good buddies. And as we see, Prismo is not taking this well. He is also still glitching out, which we first saw in the season finale of season 1, and we have no idea what this could mean. The scarab gets his crystal back, which he uses to prove that Fionna and Huntress Wizard had some sort of involvement with the Cosmic Owl's death, as the Cosmic Owl's blood is on their hands. Now, speaking of cosmic entities, before we find out Fionna and Huntress Wizard's fate, we cut back to Fiona's world, where DJ Flame is still trapped, and he is trapped by none other than the Lemon Carbs, who have new bodyguards, and they are 3 more cosmic entities. And we've actually seen these cosmic entities before back in season 1, that being Everplant, Zababy, and Popcop. Throughout this entire season, Cake has not really had a huge important role, kind of just subplot throughout season 2. However, in this episode, she's probably the most important character. You see, after Fionna and Huntress Wizard got taken to the Judgment Room, it was Cake's responsibility to find a new venue for the fundraiser. And after saving DJ Flame from the Lemon Carbs, she figures that this venue is probably the best new place for the fundraiser. And this begins her very important role in this episode. So now the fundraiser is back on, but let's go back to Fionna and Huntress Wizard for a sec. Huntress Wizard's escape plan does not work, so their next best plan to get let off scotch-free is to blame Finn for murdering the Cosmic Owl. Now, we actually don't get to hear her explain her reasoning behind this, because the entire time while she's explaining, we are hearing this song over her voice, and this song is by none other than the Marshmallow Kid that we saw earlier in this season, and he's performing at the fundraiser. And the people in the crowd of this fundraiser are a ton of new characters that are the human gender bent counterparts of characters from the original Adventure Time series. So let's go over it. Starting from left to right, this first character seems to be a genuine background character. Then moving up, this character looks like a reference to Hannah Newstrom, who has been a writer for Adventure Time, a storyboard artist for Adventure Time, and just a whole bunch of things. Then going up from there, it was pretty hard to find someone that resembles this character, but the only character that I could find was the dragon from the episode Memories of Boom Boom Mountain, and the only reason I say that is because of the lips. They have the exact same style of lips, and that's the only thing that I'm going off of. Then going up and to the left a little bit, I believe this is most likely Chet, and then the person right behind them looks very similar to the famous pincer beetle from the episode Power Animal. Then restarting back at the bottom, this looks like the human gender bent version of Trammy from the Destiny gang, and the person to the right of her actually looks very similar to Huntress Wizard's father. Then above Trammy, I believe this could represent 2 people. It first immediately reminded me of Alva from Adventure Time, but it could also represent Ursula from the Fire Kingdom. Then to the right of her, I believe this is the human gender bent version of Bracco from the episode The Suitor. Straight above her, we have the human gender bent version of a Muscle Princess. And then to the right of him, we have another big Destiny gang member. And as far as I remember, this member is actually unnamed, but to the right of her, I believe this is supposed to represent Raggedy Princess. The only reason I say that is because we know Raggedy Princess is missing an eye, and this person has a sock over their eye. Going down from her, we have the human gender bent version of one of the fire soldiers. The biggest giveaway obviously being the hair, but also it's the same type of strap that the fire soldiers also have. Below her, we have the human and gender bent version of Party God. And then going to the right, I honestly have no idea who this blonde woman is. However, to the right of her, we have who is most likely Space Angel Princess. The only reason I say that is because of the halo above their head. And then to the right of them, I honestly have no idea idea. My best guess is Tiny Manticore, but I had so much trouble finding out who this character is supposed to represent. So if you know, please let me know. But then to the right of them, we have the human gender bent version of Ron James. Behind her looks like the human gender bent version of Flannel Boxing Day. Again, the only reason I'm saying that is really because of the hoodie. And then behind him, again, I have no idea who this is. But to the right of that person, this is the human gender bent version of Trauma John. Below him is what looks like that character from Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Then below him, we have the human gender bent version of Lizard Princess. Below her is actually the human gender bent version of the main Marauder, again, from the episode Memories of Boom Boom Mountain. And then to the left of him, we have the human gender bent version of Magic Man. Going back up to above Lizard Princess is the human gender bent version of Cinnamon Bun. To the right of her is another Marauder that we see in the episode Memories of Boom Boom Mountain. Below him is Party Patty. And finally, below her, I have no idea. So if you do, please let me know. We also get an above head shot of the crowd, and there's honestly a lot more characters that I just have no clue who they represent. So please let me know because I am super curious. Anyways, the performance continues, and because DJ Flame was trapped by the lemon carbs and made to DJ for 2 days straight, they need someone else to perform to please the crowd, and that someone else ends up being Marshall Lee, and he has an amazing performance. I've said this countless times before, but the new voice actor for Marshall Lee, Chris Collins, did such an amazing job and filled such big shoes left behind by Donald Glover. During this though, we see some more character references. This first one is the human gender bent version of Flambeau. To the right of her, I have no idea. The girl behind the ice cream stand, not Simone, but the one to the right of her, I honestly have no idea as well. Again, please let me know. Marshall Lee's performance ends up being so good that DJ Flame is all of a sudden rejuvenated from it, and he begins to perform. Things are starting to look up for Gary. It actually looks like they might make their goal. Fionna and Huntress Wizard are in the cosmic waiting room, and it turns out blaming Finn was the right thing to do in order to get set free, because that's exactly what happened. Orbo releases them and sends them back to Fiona's universe. And at the very end of this episode, we will see the consequences of blaming Finn for the murder of the cosmic owl. But before we get to that, we finally see why Cake is such an important character in this episode. Finally, she does some pretty heavy lifting, almost quite literally, because she steals the cameras off of the Cheers set and begins streaming the fundraiser to almost the entire universe in order to help raise money to finally reach their goal. Not only that, but she also stretches herself across the entire city in order to collect said money, and what happens after that is actually a reference to what happened to Jake in the episode The Limit. Cake overdoes herself way too much by stretching, and she begins to turn pale, and that's exactly what we see happen to Jake in the episode The Limit when he stretches too much across the entire labyrinth. And what do you know? This is what pushed them over the goal. They now have enough money to buy the sweet spot back. It's finally saved, and Cake is the one to thank, not Fionna, which is a huge problem, because if you remember, throughout this entire season, she has been obsessed with saving the sweet spot. At first, it was because she genuinely cared for Gary, and it felt really bad, but it later turned into her trying to feel something after not feeling like a hero after saving the entire universe. This was the thing that was going to make her feel something. So now she didn't care about anyone but herself in order to try to save the sweet spot. And now that technically she wasn't involved in saving the sweet spot, she didn't set up this new venue, she didn't invite everybody to this venue, and she didn't collect all that money, things get pretty bad for her. The first thing being that she initiated the kiss with DJ Flame, knowing full well that him and Fennel were dating. Of course, Fennel catches them kissing, along with Hunter, and the look on Hunter's face tells you everything. So now after this, she has severed a lot of relationships with her friends, which is something that was foreshadowed all the way back in episode 1, when we see in her dream the severed heads of all of her friends. As she runs off, it looks like she twists her ankle or breaks her foot entirely. She eventually ends up running into the sweet spot, and it feels like she needs control over something. Again, she reaffirms that she was very selfish in trying to save the sweet spot. So if she didn't have any control in saving it, she's gonna take control in destroying it. And that's exactly what she does. Now, another interesting thing to point out is after she knocks down Marshall Lee's van home, she obviously instantly regrets it. But earlier in the episode, we saw that the Cairo Siphon was inside of that van watching the fundraiser. Does that mean that Fionna is gonna get charged with a cosmic crime for killing a cosmic entity? If that fall did kill the Cairo Siphon, then that very well could happen. Huntress Wizard ends up tracking down Fionna and reveals my theory from last video to be true, and that Fionna's entire world is the heart of the forest, and that all of these roses popping up throughout the city are in fact the heart of the forest in Fionna's universe. However, for some reason, Huntress Wizard's hand does not get absorbed by the heart of the forest, and she does not gain her powers back, so she asks Fionna if they could use her hand, which of course is foreshadowing that every Finn/Fionna in every single multiverse will eventually eventually end up losing their arm. I mean, we literally saw that with the car universe. She, of course, doesn't want to do that because, I mean, who would want to cut off their own hand? So Huntress Wizard recommends a different thing, and that's to go inside Fiona's mind. In this episode, we don't see anything yet, but we can see that Fionna is very against it. And based off of her dream from episode 1, we kind of know why. She has an insane amount of guilt. After the events of season 1, she saved her universe, but she didn't feel like one because in order to get there, all of the universes that she traveled to prior, she left them worse off. And we see that to be the case when Fionna and DJ Flame kiss. DJ Flame touches her face, and for a split second, it turns into the Winter King's dead hand after Fionna and him had kissed. Of course, after they had kissed, the Winter King ended up dying, so she just has an insane amount of guilt from everything that has happened in season 1. And then in this season, she has made it her goal to help her friends. And again, from episode 1, we see that she does this by trying to save the sweet spot. However, as we progress later and later on in this season, she lost the plot. She wasn't doing it for her friends anymore. She was doing it for herself to not feel guilty. And of course, after she didn't accomplish this, someone else had, Cake did, she makes a couple of the worst decisions that she could possibly make in her most vulnerable state. Of course, that's no excuse for her actions, but she is at an all-time low right now. And that's exactly why she doesn't want Huntress Wizard to go into her mind. She obviously doesn't want to confront this guilt, so she's been hiding it deep down in her subconscious, and Huntress Wizard and them exploring it will finally make them go face to face with it. And that's what Fionna wants to avoid. So I'm sure whatever we see in Fiona's mind in the next episode will be pretty juicy. But then we cut back to Ooh finally. Back to Simon, Princess Bubblegum, and Marceline traveling blindfolded in the forest where the heart of the forest is located. They eventually end up finding it, and it's not looking good. After Marceline and Princess Bubblegum both agreed that there was really nothing they could do to save the heart of the forest, something pretty morbid happens. Princess Bubblegum, in for some reason a kind of light, funny tone, puts the heart of the forest out of its misery. Then Princess Bubblegum gets a call from Bima on the same device that was first introduced in the episode The Other Tarts, the one that she used to contact Finn in the middle of the wasteland. And we finally see the consequences of Fionna blaming Finn for the death of the cosmic owl. And at first, Bimo makes it sound like Finn had died, but in actuality, he got absorbed by that blue ball and sent to the Hall of Judgment. Now, Fionna had explained to Huntress Wizard that she only did that because she had a gut feeling. So will this actually end up saving Finn? We can tell during Fionna and Huntress Wizard's testimony that they seemed to operate pretty fairly. So maybe Finn being unable to speak as he's unconscious and dying, he wouldn't have a chance to defend himself, therefore wouldn't have a fair trial, causing Orbo to maybe do something about it. I guess we'll see. But in the ending credits, again, the flower that Fionna is watering ends up growing more and more each episode. This is the 8th episode, so as we can tell, it's looking pretty good. But let me know what you think about Fionna and Cake season 2 so far. I've seen a lot of mixed opinions. Some people really hate it, and some people really like it. Me personally, I actually really like Fionna and Cake season 2. Fiona's character is very complex, and the reasons behind her actions throughout this entire season are very nuanced, and I love that. I also love that season 2 feels like its own thing. We do get a couple moments of ooh, but the majority of season 2 has been in Fiona's universe, and it's refreshing to kind of stay with Adventure Time, but slowly transition into something new entirely. It's also healthy for the longevity of Adventure Time. There's only so much spin-offs and continuations that you can do before it finally gets stale. So Fionna and Cake feeling like its own thing, to me, ends up being a good thing. But again, like I said, please let me know in the comments. If you didn't know, I make analyses and breakdowns of each episode as they come out. So if you do not want to miss the next one, make sure to subscribe. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like. Thank you all so much for watching. But as always, stay adventurous.